You just speak about the cases. You get a lot of cases. You want to be I don't know. No, just have a seat and enjoy.
Thank you. So what's your role?
I'm planning some monitor. I'm going to do everything from building products to domain.
Yeah, mine is more visual, so it's sort of slow type thing. And also, are you also going to waive the requirement that it looks like it's for arts center?
They're not going to paint the building.
The gas station would have to look like a residential building. But that's the zoning requires that it does. The flat does.
But that's the here today came from pretty much do
I know it's just it's not on here. I just thought I let you know I brought the flat with me.
Yeah, basically.
I think yeah. But we're hoping it off. You know what they're going to do with that yet?
I think they want to take out that submission, but that's nice.
That I mean,
It's like that's
but it's not on here. It's annoying.
It's already.
It's not the big. What the noise ordinance is part of.
No, the deliverance were associated with a certain time period.
I called after I got this letter and I asked them about that. They said that Kroger has not raised that yet, that would be the next one. That's right.
I mean, can I speak to that?
Oh, I'm sorry. It was me. You spoke quick.
Okay.
I think I apologize for any miscommunication on that. It's just
Well, it's a big thing that is
what I was attempting to explain is the applicant was still submitting additional documentation. And so when they submitted additional documentation, they included the request,
which is what?
to remove the restrictions on the time limits.
Did you notify everybody that they did that? Like,
it's just part of the meeting. That's the purpose of this meeting.
Sure, how it be decided.
Yeah,
Way towards the people who have actually.
This one doesn't have, I have the one with, I want to keep the one, I'll let you have this one.
Okay.
But because I want to keep the one that has the flat book number
Yeah,
on,
yeah.
it's the same thing. But all the conditions applicable to the commercial components start.
No, and this we have. I think this is what they're asking. This the zoning conditions from. There's some from 1993. There's some from later than that.
There's the perhaps the design of the commercial component will complement the adjacent stroll arts. That's what I'm saying. They have to.
Yeah, yeah. I think they want to remove that condition too. Yes.
So.
That's not what was put in the letter and the notice. I mean, are you going to decide that today?
No. The planning commission is a recommending body, so they're reviewing this. They're issuing a recommendation, and then it'll go.
Don't have a copy of the deed. I can tell you where the book is. Book 84, page 155. And they're not. I'm paraphrasing. But they're not allowed to do anything to the shopping center that will result in a diminution of the properties along the river or additional pollution of the river.
For the city of Bethany.
So if they're going to be starting to.
Would you mind emailing me that ebook?
I was having a lot of trouble though, because I couldn't print the actual deeds. I was trying to print, but I didn't have authority.
No, we can request that.
I was a lawyer, but not
from the county. We can request that page from the county.
We have a minimum of 2 public hearings. We have a planning commission meeting, and we have the city council. So the purpose of that is to allow protected property owners.
So this is the first.
This is the first, and so when it goes to city council for public hearing, you guys will receive another. And planning commission makes a recommendation that city council they make the final decision. And staff, we don't make any decision at all. We just sort of say, right, oh, this is. Yeah. Broker has to give us a response like that, so, but I can't sort of advise either way on that, but I should believe it must be some. Yeah, I'm not a technical legal advisor, so. But I would say that the best thing for tonight to like really be clear. Talks on it all, yeah, for the planning commission to consider it. Yeah, of course. And you guys are also, you know, if you can't make some like, I'm busy on a Monday night, you can always email me comments and you can kind of include pictures or documentation. Not on me, but write down my contact information. But any emails that I receive about any of my zoning cases, I include that in the agenda that gets posted online so that the city council will be able to see it. So that information always gets posted along, so it doesn't just sort of fall into, or I always pass it along to them. And I hope my orange pen is legible. They don't know. It's just.
And Richard now.
Yeah.
Sorry? No, yeah, if you think my just little master's cards. Yeah, the top chair. There you go. Well, let's. For each we do this big thing. Hello. Good evening, commissioners. It's 6:01. We do not have our elected chair here. We do not have our elected vice chair here. So I will call the meeting to order at 6:01. As the first item, if we could please have a motion to elect a a temporary chair for tonight's meeting.
I motion to elect Commissioner Moss as our temporary chair.
Do we have a second? And do we have a vote?
I guess all those in favor? All those opposed?
All right, so Commissioner Moss will be our chair for tonight's meeting.
Okay, good evening, everyone. First item of order is a roll call for tonight. So I'll start from my far left. We can do a roll call, please.
Deb Cameron.
Elizabeth Shen.
Alex Wallach.
And Jeff Moss. All right, the first item on the agenda tonight is the approval of the minutes from the April 14th meeting. Do I have a motion to approve those as written?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Second. All right, any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, motion passes. All right, and on to the item number D. I'm sorry, excuse me. Yes, organizational procedural items. Anything? Nothing. Okay. Let's see. Item E, unfinished business. Do we have any unfinished business, sir? All right, and item F is new business. So for the new business, I think we have some things to discuss about the potential for the new Kroger, and I'll turn it over to Madeline.
Good evening. Let me go ahead and share my screen real quick. Sorry, is it better if I speak? Is that better? Okay. So this evening we have three separate agenda items for the Kroger project, which is proposed at 4725 Ashford Dunwoody Road. I'm going to give a presentation for both the rezoning and the special land use permit together, just for ease of time and to explain everything in one go because they're all interrelated. And then Allegra will give a presentation on the major master sign plan. We'll hold a public hearing for each of those just procedurally. And each of those items will also be a separate motion as well. So the Kroger Company is requesting a rezoning to modify the zoning conditions of the original rezonings from 1993 and 2004. They are also requesting a special land use permit for a drive-through pharmacy, and they're also requesting 4 concurrent variances. Before I start breaking down all of the sort of legalese of all of these different requests, I just want to give a quick background on the property and then walk you through the proposal. So this was rezoned back in 1993 for commercial use. That was when the original shopping center was built and when the original Walmart went in. And then in 2004, Walmart made some renovations. And as a result of those renovations, they modified their rezoning again. And so from both 1993 and 2004, there are zoning conditions on this property. The building has been unoccupied since 2024 when Walmart vacated. And so due to that vacation, so now there's additional interest in the site. And so Kroger has approached to request opening a new grocery store. They wouldn't take the entire footprint of the Walmart. They would take up one suite. You can see here on the map on the right, the red and tan blob is the old Walmart building. The red side would be the Kroger, and then the tan side would be an adjacent tenant. We don't know currently what sort of adjacent tenant is being explored there. It hasn't been filled yet, but it would have to be a use that's allowed under the C-1 zoning district. But they're proposing to move into the site almost as is with a couple of modifications. So they'd be reusing the existing building. One of the changes they would like to make to the site is to modify the front facade. It would just be mainly a paint refresh and changing some elements of the facade to change around the entrances. And then
I would say the most major change they're making to the front is they're requesting to add a drive-through, which would service their in-store pharmacy. And so that drive-through lane would be parallel to the front facade of the building. I've zoomed in on their site plan just to the front of the building to give a better view of that drive-through lane, but it would essentially come in and it would have a stacking lane with capacity for 5 cars and then a pickup window covered by a small canopy. And it would essentially form a little horseshoe. A majority of that lane would be screened with vegetation. And then on the bottom is just a photo of the elevation of what that would look like. Next part of the request is for the construction of a gas station. This would not be a typical gas station with a convenience store. It would essentially just be a canopy to cover the gas station pumps. And then there's a small kiosk for an employee to have shelter. So that's the layout of the gas station, and it would be pulled up closer to Meadow Lane. If you're familiar with Meadow Lane, it has the sidewalk and then essentially a berm. And so up at the top of that hill and pushed a little bit back in front of the Walmart would be the proposed gas station. They're also proposing to make some parking lot improvements. And so that includes new landscape islands, new tree plantings, as well as a new pedestrian walkway from Meadow Lane to the front of the store. There's currently no direct route of travel for pedestrians that's separated from the cars. And so we find this to be a nice improvement to the site. And then additionally, if you look in the right hand, there's just a section of what that walkway would look. So you can see the sidewalk with the trees and the lamppost as well. Excuse me. These are the elevations. For the top one is for the Kroger itself. Again, it looks very similar to the Walmart facade. It's mainly paint and new signage. And then the bottom elevation shows the gas station canopy. So now I want to break down the requests now that we know what Kroger is proposing. Because this has layers of those old zoning conditions from 1993 and 2004, you have certain rules and regulations that dictate how the property can be used. You also just have the general zoning ordinance, which requires any drive-throughs to have a special land use permit. And also because they're utilizing the existing site and not sort of scraping and building new, that's caused some friction with some of our other zoning requirements. So they're requesting some variances as well. I'll first go over the rezoning, which is essentially to modify those zoning conditions from 1993 and 2004, essentially replacing it with a set of conditions that are applicable to this project. It would include replacing the site plan, because currently the site plan that dictates this is a little over 20 years old. It would also remove a condition restricting gas stations and just allow the zoning code to dictate what uses are allowed here. So essentially, the project is zoned C1, and gas stations are allowed in C1 by right, but those zoning conditions prevent a gas station, and so they're requesting to lift those. They are also requesting to remove the time restrictions on deliveries. They're also requesting to remove parking requirements. The special land use permit is for a drive-through, and as I said, the variances are just from general zoning district standards, and I'll get into those a little bit more. The other request for the zoning conditions is to include a new condition for the dedication of a floating easement for future trail development. That's sort of complicated language, essentially stating they are pledging to allow the city to build the North Nancy Creek Greenway on there. They're just giving permission to the city to construct that. On the left is a photo of the Nancy Creek Greenway portion that's already been built at Two Bridges Park. So it would just be a continuation of that. For the special land use permit, any drive-through in the perimeter center requires special permission. Typically, when you think of a drive-through, it's like something like a drive-through restaurant or a bank. And so we have requirements to control those, just because those are the types of things that can have impacts on sidewalks and roadways. especially when they're closer to the street or adjacent to the street. In this situation, we do find the drive-through appropriate. It is pushed back from the street, and we believe that the site is large enough to accommodate any, adverse impacts. We don't see it impacting the streets or the right of way. And so we are recommending approval on that. For the concurrent variances, I'll just walk through these really quickly because there's 4 of them. For the design requirements for drive-throughs, our design requirements in the perimeter center are very prescriptive, and they're predicated on one building type essentially, which is more of like a freestanding bank or restaurant where it's pulled up to the street, and those requirements, tell them to build the drive-through behind the building. But this model just doesn't meet that because they are utilizing the existing building that's there, and it just doesn't fit with those design requirements. Same goes for the gas station. Those rules are predicated on you have a convenience store that you can pull up to the street and put the gas pumps behind it. That's what those design requirements are getting at. But again, this is just a different product type than what the code anticipates. And so they're requesting relief from those items. We also have pedestrian circulation requirements. They're making significant pedestrian circulation improvements. There's just one part of the site that they don't feel that they can, provide a pedestrian connection for, but they are making some improvements towards that. For the streetscape requirements, if you saw in the earlier picture, and I can go back to it for reference if we need to, but this property only has a very small amount of frontage. The shopping center is split into 3 different parcels, and it just wouldn't necessarily be rational to require any streetscape improvements on such a small stretch of roadway. And the Public Works Director, acknowledges that. And so they're requesting relief from our streetscape requirements, but as mitigation for not providing those, again, as I discussed earlier, they are providing an easement for future trail development, which, would be, a great way to extend from Two Bridges Park up to the shopping center. So overall, we are recommending approval of the proposed changes, subject to updating the site plan and the elevations, as well as the trail easement agreement. And then we have 11 different zoning conditions. These are the first 2, and then I have another slide with the rest of those conditions. I'm happy to go over them in more detail if anyone has any questions, and I'll also have them up here on the screen for reference later in the meeting. But that concludes my presentation, and I'll go ahead and turn it over to the applicant so that they can also share a little bit of information about the project.
Good evening. My name is Laurel David with the Galloway Law Group. I just whispered into Madeline's ear, she stole most of my slides. So my presentation will be quite brief. She actually covered, as she usually does, most of the things that I wanted to make sure got covered. Also, her staff report, as usual, is very thorough. But there were a few things that I wanted to bring to your attention. We have renderings, which she did not have, which I think hopefully give you a better idea of what the finished product will look like as opposed to 2-dimensional elevations. I also wanted to tell you a little bit about Kroger. This store is going to be a marketplace, so it will have departments that some of the more older traditional Krogers do not have. Such as, well, I know my Kroger has plates and kitchen things, and just as in addition to what you would see the normal utensils. There'll of course be a Starbucks there. They'll have the delicatessen with specialty cheeses and meats, and they're also going to have a baby clothing department. And Kroger also is very involved in philanthropic initiatives. They have a Zero Hunger, Zero Waste plan. Since it was devised in 2017, they've donated more than 3 billion meals and donations of in-kind and surplus food to about value of about $1.3 billion in charitable giving. They donate money and food to help establish and support school food pantries and to nonprofits that address food insecurity. And they also recycle or aim to recycle about 90% of their construction waste, so it doesn't go to the landfills. And in addition, they're also very active in supporting community groups and neighborhood groups and nonprofits. You've seen the site plan. We use the same things, as you can see. I will add, in the information that Kroger agreed to take out an entire aisle of parking in order to put in this sidewalk path that, as you can see, actually will go all the way from Meadow Lane and the sidewalk connection there, all the way to the front entrance. Of course, none of that is there now. With the addition of the landscape islands that you can see there, the lot coverage will be about 75%, which I think for a piece of property this size is actually pretty good for commercial development. And they're also reducing the amount of parking that's out there now by a total of about 100 spaces. There's 626 spaces there now. And here's a rendering of the pedestrian pathway. They're also going to have lighting, not quite like street lighting, but that's the idea, to make sure that anybody walking there feels secure and safe. The fuel center was also designed with safety in mind. You can see the fuel tanks, the sort of oval-shaped circles there to the right of where the Kroger canopy is shown in red there. And then there's the hashed area that allows trucks to pull over. They can make their fuel deliveries there. They won't be in the circulation of customer traffic. Here's a well, this is not a rendering. This is actually a photo of a similar fuel center. You can see there's an attendant that will be there. There's, as Madeline mentioned, there will be a small kiosk for the attendant. It will have a small selection of grab-and-go snacks for people who are just getting fuel, but there won't be any alcohol, and it is very small. It's less than 100 square feet. The pharmacy entrance was also designed with safety in mind. You can see there's the way that it is oriented. It's one way. There's clear visibility for cars who will be entering and exiting. There will be clearly marked pedestrian crossings at the entrance and exit. And the landscaping is there not just to mitigate any visual effects, but also to create a buffer between the pedestrian and the cars in the actual drive-through. And this is a rendering of that area. So with that, I'd ask for your support and if you have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, for the commissioners, do we have any questions for either one of the presenters, starting on my left, Commissioner Cameron?
Yeah. For this, we do kind of like the big questions now. I would say let's do the public hearing first.
You want to do the public hearing? Okay.
And then the comments.
Okay. Then we will now go with a public hearing. First up, Frank, and I hope I pronounced this right, Caper? Am I correct? Okay, all right. Sorry.
Commissioner Moss, let us do this. I think both of the little cards that I handed over to you were in opposition. Let us do this because we have 10 minutes for and 10 minutes against for each one. If you wouldn't mind opening the public hearing first for the people wanting to speak in favor, in case there are any, and then move on to the proposal.
Okay, all right, so at this time, we'll open the public hearing. And do we have? We will have 10 minutes for those to speak for, and we will have 10 minutes for those to speak against. So do we have anyone who would like to speak for? No. Okay, hearing none. Those who would like to speak against, I have Frank Capon, I'm sorry. Yes, sir. Can you go to the microphone, please?
Say my primary concern is we and a whole string of our neighbors back up on the area of where the trucks would be doing deliveries. And you know, we can definitely hear when Walmart was doing deliveries. You hear truck noise, you'd hear beeping, you know, as trucks were backing up. And I have a question as to, are they going to be eliminating the time restriction or just reducing it somewhat? Because the last thing that we would want is to be like up all night hearing trucks delivering right behind our house with them backing up. It will impact us as well as a few dozen homes that all are along that area. And so I guess the question would be, are they reducing it from I don't know what the restriction is now. But anything after 11 o'clock or before 5 o'clock in the morning is absolutely unacceptable, and will significantly impact the life of the people that live in those areas, as well as the property value due to the noise pollution. And I understand that a grocery store is, in most cases, they have to do deliveries overnight. I just don't know to what extent they've solved the problem of how to do this without negatively impacting the people that live in that area. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Janice. Yes, ma'am.
So I have some benefit of having lived in Ashford Chase, which is a 147 house community, and that backs up to the shopping center. And I've been there since it was first developed. And I was there for, I think my husband was the head of the Homeowners Association in 2004 when the whole debacle happened with the Walmart shopping center and the limitations on when they deliver and when the lights were done and everything was instituted because there are 147 homes. There are people with small babies and children that can't sleep at night because they're hearing the trucks back up. And that's why the limitations were put in, and the Walmart had the limitations that it did. And I understand Kroger is looking not to just change them, but to wipe them out completely. And that impacts all of our homes because we will hear them, and it impacts all of the values of our homes if you remove the limitations. And for Kroger to say they can't operate under the current limitations of, I think it's from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m., I was told, seems disingenuous when Walmart was able to. Walmart was a super Walmart with a full grocery store, and they were able to operate under those limitations. Now, so I object. I'm absolutely opposed to removing those, and I find it interesting that nobody seemed to address that in their request today in what they're doing in their land use changes. I did bring the original plat as well, and there are a number of changes or things that are in the plat that limit. I've always been loud, so find this just a little concerning, but, so in the original plat and plat book 97, page 5 of the DeKalb County records, there was a list of conditions for the subdivision. And part of it is they did not want the Sproul Center, when Sproul sold that property, they did not want it turning into a commercial looking environment. They wanted it to remain looking, quite frankly, like the Sproul Center. It's everything according to the plat and the zoning ordinances was to make it look residential. They didn't want it to look commercial. You had it sold into 3 blocks. One went to the commercial, one went to the post apartments, and the other was to Glen Devon, which became Ashford Chase subdivision. But it says the property shall not be used for a gas station or a convenience store. There's a lot of things in between that, but that would be under subsection 2F on the plat. It also said, no pornography shops and no other things, but that's not an issue here. They now are saying that it's going to be a gas station and there's going to be a convenience store attached to the gas station. I don't recall because there are things you could buy at the little where the guy's going to be that's collecting the money. The gas station, I don't know if they've done any environmental impact. This is kind of related to the gas station, but we have Nancy Creek, and you've got the detention pond that is the responsibility of the 3 areas to keep up and to clean out. My house backs up on the creek. I would want to know how any potential pollution is going to be handled to the creek. And I can tell you that in the deed, which runs with the land, and I can give you the page and book number to that, there's an absolute limitation that there is nothing that can be done by the owners of the subdivision, the owners of the shopping center that will cause a diminution of the property or the pollution of the people who live in and around the creek. And if you want, I can pull that up. I would have brought a copy of the deed, but I couldn't quite print it. It says specifically, the rights of upper and lower riparian owners in and to the north fork of the Nancy Creek crossing, the eastern portion of the subject property or adjoining the subject property, and the natural flow thereof shall remain free from diminution or pollution. And the owners, and that would be in book 8405, page 155. And that was part of Sproul's grant when they sold the property in the first place. And that is a condition that runs with the land. And it's to make sure that people like those of us who live along the creek are not impacted by undue pollution or uses that will impact our property. I also question how they're going to do a gas station that looks like the Sproul Shopping Center. Looks like the Sproul Art Center, because it says that the design of the buildings have to complement the adjacent Sproul Center. Because again, they do not want, and I would object to anything that doesn't look like a residential, kind of like Perimeter Village was supposed to remain looking like a village. So was this. And it's not supposed to become a very commercial looking property. We had a lot of crime when Walmart was there. A lot of crime. I was in my former life a criminal defense lawyer. I had DEA agents telling me that they were sitting in the shopping center surveilling drug deals that were going down. My daughter had a police officer run with a gun in her face because he was trying to stop shoplifters from the Walmart. So I do have some concern about what this will do if it's a similar type environment, if it's going to cause more crime. I don't know what kind of security they're going to have. I don't know also what the signage is. There's not supposed to be any, the plat also says no like neon signs, no bright signs. It's again supposed to be looking like a community. I guess while I'm not opposed to a grocery store, I am opposed to changing the limitations on delivery or anything that's going to make it look like a commercial environment. The drive-through, so long as it's we're not on a slippery slope where we're now going to have fast food restaurants going in there because now we're allowing drive-throughs. I mean, there was a reason why this was all done, and it was again to keep it a community looking place. And I ask that you don't grant, change the zoning requirements, at least pertaining to when they can deliver, because Kroger should be able to figure it out. Walmart figured it out. And we have enough problems as it is with noise, and it's all along the river. And I also, and as it is now, the owners of the shopping center aren't keeping up their side of the property on their side of when they built the big wall and they've got all of the trees down there, there's trash, there's garbage, there's holes in the fence. They just don't bother. But again, I'd ask that you don't approve the zoning and think about how it impacts the 147 house community that abuts the shopping center, as well as the look of what we want in Dunwoody. Do we want to make this more of a commercial looking area, or do we want to keep it as a residential area?
Okay, thank you to each of you for your comments. At this point in time, if there's no other comments, we'll close. I'm sorry. Okay, we have a couple of minutes left. Okay, we need
We have 40 seconds left of this. If do you think you have 40 seconds left? Is that sufficient?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I just wanted to.
Okay, we will need your names. There's no form for that. We'll need your name and your location, please.
And House Spector,
Okay.
also part of Ashford Chase, and also back up right to where she was talking about. My concern also is security based, because we did have a break-in right next door, and it was a violent break-in, and that was while Walmart was going on, and there were, several other incidents in the neighborhood. So I would like to see additional security cameras in the back of the Walmart to be able to monitor what's going on in that area. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we will close the public hearing. And we'll go back to questions for the commissioners. So again, we'll start on my left, Commissioner Cameron. Questions?
Madeline, I have a couple questions for you. The reduced parking spaces, does that still meet requirements of the Dunwoody ordinances?
Yeah, so we actually don't have any minimum parking requirements. We have maximum parking requirements. And so this reduction would bring them closer into compliance with that. So it meets the ordinance.
Okay. And what are the current time restrictions for deliveries and the proposed changes?
Yeah, I don't want to misquote the times. I think I know what they are, but I'm going to pull up the Planning Commission agenda packet because we do have a copy of those in there.
Are you telling me that I should look at it?
No. I can look it up real quick. Sorry, I'm just going to scroll through. Sorry, we have a really big package today we have a lot of documents, and so here we go. Let me go ahead and share my screen so that you can also see this as well. It might not be legible on the tiny screens, but I will read it out. I just have to find the condition here. Okay, so it restricted truck deliveries between the hours of 9 p.m. and 7 a.m. on Mondays through Fridays, and 9 p.m. and 9 a.m. on Saturdays and Sundays.
And the proposal is that those would disappear?
Yeah, the applicant is proposing to strike that from the conditions.
And the staff's thinking behind that was supporting that is that there's no other grocery store in Dunwoody that has those restrictions.
That is correct. We don't have any restrictions for time limitations on deliveries on other stores in Dunwoody. But the applicant has also expressed that they simply cannot accommodate time restrictions on deliveries. If you have more detailed questions about that, I would defer to the applicant.
And to the two people who spoke, what are your addresses, please? Okay, thank you. Yeah, those are all my questions. Thanks.
Okay, I guess I will then follow up on Commissioner Cameron's question and ask the applicant the restrictions on the deliveries, the time frame.
I first want to say, as far as the deliveries go, obviously a grocery store has to turn over food during a 24-hour period. And often baked goods need to come in the wee hours of the morning. Different types of food come at different times. Having said that, Kroger is willing to restrict its delivery hours to 11, well, so no deliveries. I want to get my AMs and PMs right. No deliveries between 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. on weekdays, and 11 p.m. and 7 a.m. on weekends. Now, part of our concern was that for Kroger, there is obviously a complicated, and it's quite beyond me, but a complicated stream of truck deliveries from various warehouses or secondary collection sites. And they have to be coming in at regular intervals. It also will mean, by restricting the hours, there will be more truck traffic entering and leaving the site during the day. And I know that was something that we had talked about at the community center. But they are willing to make that restriction, given the concerns from the community.
Thank you.
I did want to address a couple of other things, if I may. I think the things that were on the plat was actually a copy of the zoning approval from 1993. That's not uncommon when you file a subdivision plat, that the county at that point would have asked you to put a copy of the zoning approval on the plat. So the things that are on the plat were actually all part of the zoning conditions. I don't know what the thinking was in 1993. And actually, I was quite surprised that that entire neighborhood was part of the original development, which included the commercial center and the multifamily pieces as well. It was a huge piece of land. But I think it is already a commercial center. The building is existing. There's no way to change the character really of the entire center. And I think the gas station convenience store, it's not a convenience store. It's a very small kiosk. It's more like, there's this very small area, maybe 3 feet, 4 feet.
Like the one in Sandy
that.
Springs?
Yes.
Yeah.
If it's like if it's like mine, which is not the one in Sandy Springs, then yeah, in fact, I didn't even know that there were drinks or anything in there. It's just because it really only looks big enough for the attendee. For the stream, Kroger already has very stringent environmental standards regarding its fuel center. The attendant that will be there is trained in the federal and state, as well as local jurisdiction requirements for addressing fuel spills, making sure nothing comes off site. And of course, there are, in addition, state, federal, and local laws as it pertains to stormwater runoff or anything that might get into Nancy Creek. unlike Walmart, they will not have expensive electronics and jewelry and other things that attract high crime. Most Krogers don't attract high crime. In fact, sometimes really their main issue is just shoplifting. We've got there will be I want to get it right because they're not a policeman. They are a loss prevention associate on each store, who will be there to monitor, I guess, behavior and make sure there's no crime when it's open. We've got the lighting that I had mentioned before. There will be a camera in the parking lot, and there will also be a camera in the back. That was something that Kroger had already agreed to do. And then they also have various types of sensors to prevent theft when the stores open, and also the locking mechanisms on the carts. I think that was all the things that came to mind did you have any more questions?
I have a question for Paul or Madeline.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
My question for Paul / Madeline is, can you refresh the planning commission on like, we just went through the comp plan, we have Edge Shade 2.0, there's a vision for the perimeter area and like particularly this commercial site. And what kind of use cases or what kind of things does that long-term vision include?
Yeah, so we recently adopted the 2045 comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan, the vision for the perimeter center is certainly the character of the area, I believe, is for a sort of different type of design than the traditional shopping center of old, and a little bit more mixed use. For this project, so sorry, trying to see if there's another position for the microphone that doesn't result in that sound. Because this is a reuse of an existing building, the way we're viewing it as they are making some incremental improvements to the site that bring it more in compliance with our, current vision and regulations. But obviously, because it's one, sliver of the site in the middle of the shopping center, a whole, scrape and redo is not possible. But in terms of reusing the existing site, we do find that they are making some improvements, especially as it relates to the pedestrian circulation and, reintroducing another grocery store into the neighborhood. These are all things that we view as positives when we look at the vision for Perimeter Center.
Thank you. Yeah, it's like the plat being over and rezoning and all of that being older than me, actually. That so it's like things have changed. What's there today, what the city is looking forward to having there in the future. And yeah, I think being someone who lives in the perimeter area, having a grocery store within walking distance would be really nice, other than Publix. I would say the site design, it would be nice to have more like breaking up of the parking lanes and also to close the one driveway that's closest to the signalized intersection. I heard that parking lane won't be used for the fuel delivery. So just from like emphasizing safety on the site design, that would be helpful for better pedestrian visibility and just turning movements. Today it can be like a little chaotic for cars and pedestrians right there at that intersection.
Elizabeth, sorry, can I pull up the site plan?
Yeah.
I want to be clear about the area that you're referring to.
Yeah, right by the signal at Meadow Lane, there's like the two driveways internal to the site next to the driveway at the signal. So the one that is closest to the signal, if that could be either like restricted to
Is it this driveway, this first one that's off the main
Yeah.
entrance? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I just wanted to be really clear.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank Commissioner Watt.
Yeah. I have a couple of questions for staff and then one, maybe two for the applicant as well. Given how the drive-through is to be configured for the Kroger, is that going to have an adverse impact on any future tenant on the other side of that existing structure, such that it may make it harder to get a tenant in that structure?
I can't necessarily speak to the difficulty of finding tenants, but I believe they have a representative from the property owner here that, that question would be better directed at. One thing I'll say about the flow of the drive-through is that the stacking is coming in, and I've got it pulled up on the map again. The stacking is coming from this direction, so in here and out, and so none of that stacking would be occurring in front of the adjacent tenant to the Kroger. The stacking lane, the flow of traffic, if you can see my mouse, moves this way, and people exit out here.
So
then that stacking is in front of the tenant.
Does that mean that in order to enter the drive-through, a person's going to be making a left across traffic that is coming from the right?
So if you're pulling in from, and again, my mouse is not always super visible on this screen. So traffic lanes move this way, they move both ways here. So yes, they can enter either by taking a right or by taking a left or by coming up, one of the drive lanes and pulling in. That turn movement, again, we don't necessarily in a parking lot, traffic moves much slower than on a street. And so we don't necessarily see any issues with turn movements or issues with stacking.
Okay. And I don't suppose there's any rational solution to that concern I've raised. Because it seems to me that that's creating, particularly when you've also got potentially people walking right there, as they approach the front entrance. It seems like there's you're setting things up for a problem, in my opinion. But
that's it. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you.
No, I was kind of trailing off.
No, I was, I'm just taking down these notes, and that's something we can look at with the applicant in terms of what types of, solutions are there to maybe slow down traffic, and make that area, more slow moving.
Good evening, Michael Ogden, Kimco Realty. We're the owners of the shopping center. So to your question about the adjacent tenant, we don't have any concerns about the location of the drive-up pharmacy. And in fact, we are working with a tenant now that should bear some fruits. It's too early to announce them yet, but their entrance will be off to the right in all likelihood. So it'll be away from where the pharmacy is. So no concerns.
Right. And as the property owner, do you have concern about what we're creating there with the left turn to enter the drive-through, at least from one direction, and crossing traffic and people walking there, since the design might ultimately be your liability?
No, we don't have any concerns. And the Kroger entrance is kind of further off to the left there. So there is a separation as well. And the other thing, we keep calling it a drive-through. It's really a pickup lane. Pharmacies don't really kind of function like drive-throughs at a restaurant or a bank. It's a lot less traffic, and you're there to pick up something, not order something and then pick it up at the same time.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's all I've got. Yeah. And then the other question for staff that I had was, you were talking about it doesn't make sense to require them to improve the streetscape when it's just a small piece, and they're giving up an easement kind of as a trade almost. Is the economic value of the two things roughly the same?
I can't necessarily speak to economic value. That's definitely more the Public Works Department. This proposal is signed off by Michael Smith, our Public Works Director. He was in favor of this change and he did not request the streetscape improvements. The floating easement for the trail would be a great benefit. It is a significant chunk of what the Public Works Department would need in order to complete the Nancy Creek Greenway. Again, I can't speak to economics, but it's a significantly longer stretch of property than this is maybe like 200 feet of frontage on Meadow Lane. So
Okay. Okay. Well, that was the sum of my questions for staff. And then I had a question for or a couple questions for the applicant. There have been several issues raised about the trucks and the noise and all of that. About how many trucks per day do you estimate?
I'm getting wide eyes. This is Taylor Jensen with Kroger, but she is the construction manager, so.
Hi, thank you for asking. What we look at is that when you talk about the different trucks, it's not just the tractor trailers that bring our frozen food, but you also have all the beer vendors and the produce vendors and the smaller trucks as well. So part of having some of the evening hours, excluding some, but not excluding all of the evening hours, what we look at is the overall traffic pattern. So our logistics team works with the tractor trailers, but what we call the DSD vendors, which are the small vendors like Mayfield Dairy and Bonnie Plants and different things like that, they don't have the same scheduling hours. So they work within our open hours. We have deliveries every day in terms of tremendous numbers of trucks. So what I'm saying is it's probably 10 to 12 tractor trailers could have at different days. They balance the day. So when we go less at night, it increases the traffic during the day. So keeping that balance at night also does help it. But overnight, that's why we can go with some of the hours. I think you mentioned the specific time frame. That makes a difference. But also being so close to 285 and the in-town traffic patterns in the area impact the increase. So having a little bit more of that time in the evening after the traffic has died down allows us to be more consistent and allow for expectations for tractor trailers so that when we say we are going to meet something, we actually can meet it and not have overrun, right? Like have a truck that gets stuck in traffic and all of those kind of things. So it is a tremendous amount of traffic to go without some of the evening hours because it will substantially increase the number of trucks every day. We normally have trucks all through the night is what I'm saying. We normally have trucks from all, because our staff inside the store works when the store is closed. So there is the overnight grocery stocking shift. So it increases if we don't have those hours, it'll increase the trucks all day long.
But the answer to the actual question posed is it's 10 to 12.
It may even be more than that. I mean, I don't think it'd be more than 10 to 12. And I can get a clarification on that. But what I wanted to say is the number of trucks the beeping trucks are not always a tractor trailer that I can give you an exact count on is a better way to put that. The beer trucks, the box trucks, the shorter trucks that do come to the dock, they're going to have the same safety beeping. Those have a more random pattern, but they would not be after hours. We do have certain patterns.
If you add the tractor trailers and the smaller trucks, how many deliveries a day?
The larger the store, the more deliveries. So I'll have to go back and get a count on that. That's kind of an unusual question. I haven't had it. Most of mine are more about how many trucks does it take to do shelving and cases. So that I know. I'll get the other one back for the members of the panel.
Okay. And thank you.
I would like to point out that this is, of course, 2/3 the size of what the Walmart was. I would have thought it would be less than whatever Walmart had since they had a grocery as well.
Okay, the second thing is you were addressing a question I think one of my colleagues asked you, or perhaps Ms. Spector asked you regarding security, and you started talking about loss prevention. Aren't those two completely different things? Loss prevention is to make sure people aren't stealing stuff from Kroger. And I believe the people were asking about security for the people in the parking lot and the people in the residential area. Aren't those two different things?
Yeah, I'm gonna start on that because, no, I don't think they are, actually. I think if you can stop the crime or the reason why they're there is to try and get things from the store, right?
Not necessarily. They may be there to prey on the people who are going to the store when they're got their
True.
hands full of
I-
groceries and
yeah.
their purses out and things like that.
But I do think a Walmart with electronics to steal is probably more enticing. But I'm gonna let Ms. Jensen address that.
Thank you so much. I think we're very well aware of the challenges. I mean, we're aware of that, of what happened. A couple of things I can tell you about in the design of the store itself. We will not be full self-checkout. We will have manned check lanes. Sorry, we'll have manned check lanes. We'll also have some of the security gates inside the store, which helps with some of the things that became I think it became a bit of a burden on the Dunwoody Police Department, constant calls. So we put some design elements in place to help with that. Also, we've converted the second entrance to our pickup entrance in order so our customers will be coming in and out of the main entrance. Emergency exits will still be in play. So we use design elements to sort of help with that. Asset protection and loss prevention, they are part of the same element in our team, meaning they also make the decisions as to when a police officer is needed, when a security guard is needed, and when an armed officer is needed. But every store has an employee or two employees that their assignment is kind of it's not a greeter, but it is an asset protection specialist. That's a full-time associate inside the store that their job is to be on the lookout of that. We spend a tremendous amount of funds inside the store and outside the store for security cameras, for different areas of it, to different elements near the drive-through, in the rear of the store, but also throughout our stores, which is part of that asset protection piece. But it's also part of loss prevention, which we look at our customers as part of that piece, how we're protecting. We've included in the design a space for Dunwoody Police, just as an option, a preserved parking spot. We've also included the solar panel cameras. We'll have one in the front, but per the neighbor's recommendation, we can add additional cameras to the rear of the store. There's not a problem at all to do that, so that's something we'll take back. We usually have some, but we can certainly add more if that will help the community as a whole. Kroger is not, we love urban communities. We are a grocer that believes in staying in the city and supporting them. But we also have a lot of tools in our tool belt that allows us to better serve the different elements that come into play. So I think that we think about it from that perspective when we design, when we apply, when we improve, and when we hire. So that's part of our plan, but we have a lot of different elements that we can do to add into the mix to make sure that our customers and our associates are safe.
Thank you. That's all I got.
Okay. Travis, yes.
Okay. I have a couple questions, I think probably first for staff, but you guys tell me. I wanted to follow up on Commissioner Shin's question regarding the circulation of traffic and get a better understanding. I thought I heard you say that there would be fuel trucks going through that part. So you go up, right? And right now you can make a right, and that would go into the gas station area, but that there would be a place for fueling trucks to be there. Is that correct? Can you maybe?
I would actually defer to the applicant for the routes for their trucks. I'm
Okay.
not specifically familiar with that.
If there's a map, that's even better.
Trevor Anger, Evans is our civil engineer.
Okay. Hi.
Good afternoon, everybody. So the striped out area that was located for the truck fueling is for these tanks that are going to be right here underground.
Mm-hmm.
The truck will turn in at the traffic signal, make a right down this drive aisle, pull off into this striped zone,
Mm-hmm.
exit the vehicle, pump the underground tanks full of gas, and then exit the development to the right and back down to the pond.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. I think that and this might be more of a comment than a question, is I have frequented the Sandy Springs location and it's quite frankly very congested. And so I'm wondering if there are learnings from that location that are being applied here to prevent that same sort of congestion. I've seen a number of almost car accidents because of that congestion. And so I want to make sure that we're not opening ourselves up to the same thing.
I was going to say, we can have them have another look at it. I don't shop the Sandy Springs Kroger. But the Kroger I do shop has a fuel center, and actually it's this kind of a similar design with the two driveways, and it's not, we don't actually have a problem with that one for what that's worth.
Okay. The second question that I had was about the lighting. That was something else that was brought up by the community. And when I took a look at the packet, all it said was lighting exists. So I'm trying to understand if there are timeframes around the lighting, if there are changes to the lighting.
So there's no changes proposed for any of the lighting in the back. In fact, we were going to talk about the zoning condition, if you remember. Oddly enough, at least I thought it was odd, Georgia Power owns the lights in the parking lot. They operate and maintain them. So Kroger and Kimco, in fact, the owner, can't control obviously what Georgia Power does with the landscaping, the light poles that are out there already. But I would assume that as those will be on the other side of the store, that's not going to be as much of a concern to the neighborhood as any lighting that's in the back. We haven't heard anything about any particular lighting that has been obnoxious, but so all I can say is it's going to be the same as it always was.
Okay. And then did you look into any environmental impacts to that retaining pond that's there and the creek?
From the fuel center?
Well, from the construction and then also from the fuel center.
Kroger has teams that are responsible for the environmental side of either the construction and also the maintenance of an operation of the fuel center. So no, nothing specific, I guess. There's special extra studies. That's just part of how they approach any development site.
Okay, so then I guess my question for staff is if an environmental impact study is actually required for this because of the addition of the fuel center.
For the zoning process, a development of this size our triggers for environmental studies are based on the size of developments. As part of the permitting process, though, it does go through review. Typically, those types of engineering details are not thought through at just the zoning phase because it's not technically, nothing's been approved yet. But it does go through, a significant review, especially for construction with soil erosion. And I know there are, particular standards that all gas stations have to meet, and the compliance with that, again, is handled during the permitting process.
Okay, thank you. That's it for me.
Okay, for the applicant, we may have covered this, and I'm sorry if I missed it. Store hours and fuel hours, what would those be?
Same as what we had talked about for the delivery hours, with the exception, I guess, of Saturdays. They're open 6 a.m. to 11 p.m.
Okay, both of them, fuel and so there's okay. So for the person who tends the fuel, the attendant at the fuel pumps, they're on the same hours.
Yes.
Okay, so, all right, so there's no attendant there after hours.
No.
Okay. The security cameras that would be posted after hours, are they monitored by a live person? I would assume.
Yeah.
Watching, or is it something we watch a videotape later?
there-
Okay.
Here she comes.
Yes, we have a recording system that allows us to have images for a certain period of time in case the police or someone needs it or for those type of items. So whatever cameras we put in place, we can get those recordings and double check.
So they're not.
Okay, but the cameras,
They're
on
not-
the exterior, there's no, at 1 a.m.,
No.
there's no live feed to somebody sitting there to say,
There's not somebody sitting there watching it all the time. No, our nighttime crews, but it is always recording.
okay,
It's like a lot of them are motion or 360 degrees. So they're impacted. So they do help protect the environment. We can also, I mean, in terms of when we do extra, we help our neighbors. I guess is a good way to put that. That's kind of the way it works. But it also, when we add an extra camera, whether it's around a fuel area or it's around the back of the building, because that we think that that might be a risky place, then that's kind of, we try to make sure we have the right kind of camera to have the right angle. That might be something where we want to make sure we have the right light so the camera does work, but we wouldn't do anything to add light that would beam on to our neighbors. Most of ours, any lights we have are strictly wall packs to go down just to make sure it's safe, in terms of to keep that visibility, but we never have anything that goes out.
okay. And I believe that's all for me. Okay, so under new business item number 2, we're looking at RZ 26-01, Kroger Company request a rezoning to modify the zoning conditions for the property to allow the development of a grocery store with an associated gas station and 4 concurrent variances. Do I hear any motions in regards?
I have discussion for what my motion might be based on what people are saying. That way we don't have to go through.
Okay, we don't want to do a motion before, I mean, no motions to discuss. We want to discuss first.
We can discuss.
Okay.
So I have heard that the variant, is it correct that it's the variance that's getting struck? That's the restrictions of the delivery hours, or how would that be worded?
The old conditions from the 1993 and 2004 zoning contained a restriction on time. The applicant this evening has expressed that they are willing to add a different restriction to time. What they said was 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. Those AMs and PMs are important. 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. on weekdays and 11 a.m. to 7 a.m. on weekends.
Yeah.
And so if you all wanted to add that as a condition, you would say, subject to staff conditions plus, and then you can list off the time restriction. And then same for any other conditions you would like to add based on discussion tonight.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, that as a condition for reintroducing the restricted delivery hours. I believe weekdays 11 p.m. to 6 a.m., weekends 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. A condition about additional security cameras and lighting. And then a condition about just like traffic flow, either ingress and egress from the site, particularly next to the gas station and next to the drive-through. Okay, I'm gonna make a motion. I motion to approve RZ 2601, subject to staff conditions, plus the condition to restrict delivery hours to 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. on weekdays, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. on weekends, a condition to restrict or close the driveway closest to the signal adjacent to the gas station, and considerations for improved safety next to the pickup window drive-through, and a condition for additional security cameras and lighting on site.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Do we have to define the conditions?
How many?
I believe Elizabeth's language is specific enough. We typically kind of fine tune before city council on those conditions. But if you want to discuss and clarify more, you also can do that.
If you guys are good, I'm good with that. I'll second the motion.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'm just a little confused about something. If it's 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. on weekdays, so we're talking about Monday, 11 to 6. If you're starting at 11 p.m. on Monday and going to 6 a.m., that would mean Tuesday at 6. And that would mean that the way we're talking about these conditions, you could have 6 a.m. Saturday deliveries, as opposed to if we said that the 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. applied to Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, so that the later time of 7 a.m. would be Saturday morning and Sunday. It depends on whether we're defining the day as the starting time or the ending time. And I think we have to be specific about that.
My understanding of the time, though, is that Kroger was saying they would make deliveries only during store hours. And their store hours are 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. during weekdays and 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. on weekends. Am I right about that?
I would recommend, instead of defining when deliveries are prohibited, just defining when deliveries are allowed, which is on weekdays. On weekdays, it's 6 a.m. through 11 p.m. And on weekends, it is 7 a.m. through 11 p.m.
Will amend my motion based on that.
Can I have a further discussion? I apologize. One more thing I think we should define is the cameras in the back, because I don't know what's proposed. So would we want to use a verbiage such as full coverage of all the paved areas and just something along those lines? Because I don't know how many cameras are proposed. Is there any idea? Are there any areas that are uncovered? Where are we trying to go with that as far as the cameras? If we just say addition.
What is required for
Okay.
additional security? I don't know that we have to say this many cameras, but I think
Right.
it's like a condition for
Yeah, the intent is just like
an
to
evaluation
add that in,
for
yeah.
elevated security via the use of additional cameras.
Okay, so if I've amended my motion, it has to have a second again?
You can go back. Yes, yeah, go ahead and amend your motion.
Same motion as before, except the restricted hours is actually for just deliveries during school. I mean, not school.
Business hours?
Business hours, operating hours.
I would say I don't think the operating hours are exactly these hours. I would just mention these hours specifically.
Or hours.
I think the opening hours are the same on weekdays and weekends. Yeah, I would reference specifically weekdays 6 a.m. through 11 p.m. Weekends 7 a.m. through
Okay.
11
The allowable times for deliveries.
Allowable delivery hours, 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. weekdays, 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. weekends. Awesome.
Okay,
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we, let me back up. Do we still have that includes the original? Okay. Would you state all that again? I've got them written down, but I'll let you state them one more time to make sure that we're clear on that. So if you'll make your motion, if you'll make your amendment, please. In full statement.
I motion to approve the rezoning of 2601, given staff conditions, with the allowable delivery hours on weekdays, 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., weekends, 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. as a condition to restrict or close the driveway closest to the signal next to the gas station, and to revisit the safety next to and just the ingress egress traffic flow next to the drive-through and store entrance, and then as a condition to evaluate for additional security cameras and lighting on site.
Very good. Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, amended. Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of the motion as presented, please raise your right hand. Okay, motion carries unanimously. All right. Number 3.
A motion for the SLUP as well.
Yes, I'm going to that one. No, we've already covered the information on that, correct?
So essentially,
Okay.
I don't have to give another presentation unless you guys have specific questions about the special land use permit, but we'll still need to open the public hearing for it.
Okay.
And then you guys can do discussion and make a motion.
Okay. All right, in regards to a special land use permit 2601, I'd like to open the public hearing. That will last for 10 minutes each for any for or against. Would anyone like to speak for, in favor of this special land use permit? Okay, hearing none. Would anyone like to speak against the special land use permit? Yes, sir.
Frank Capek, 4646 Chardonnay Court. The one, and it touches on some of the questions that you asked earlier. In the event that there are more than 5 people waiting at the drive-through, what happens to flow then? Because it seems like it will either it'll obstruct traffic waiting in the right-hand side to cross over to the left, or potentially just like block traffic entirely if people are coming and end up in some ways queuing up beyond the queue of 5 that there's capacity for in the lane. And so it seems like that would be an important thing to just get some clarity on. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other public comments against SLUP 2601? Okay, hearing none, I'll close the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, just like one short, I would just ask the applicant if they have a separate presentation prepared for this. I presume the answer is no, but
okay.
I don't want to presume.
Certainly.
I appreciate that, but no, I would not do that to you. So I will say that we are providing 4 stacking cars. 4 stacking cars is the standard all over the city for pharmacy pickups. And it's also based on transportation engineering standards. In fact, from what I understand, Kroger rarely has more than 3 cars in their pharmacy pickup because they usually order the refill on their app. I don't know if you all have to take medication. I'm sure you don't, but I have medication that I have to take from my pharmacy. I actually get a text. You ready for your refill? Reply yes. It's super easy. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so in regards to SLUP 2601 discussions.
I just want to clarify the applicant's statement. I was going to ask about how many cars. So the average that Kroger has in their pharmacy is about 3. Okay. And your space will accommodate 4?
Any further discussions? Okay. All right. Special land use permit 2601, Kroger Company requests a special land use permit for a drive-through pharmacy. Have any motions?
I move that special land use permit 2601 be approved. I don't believe there were any staff conditions. So approved as proposed.
Okay. I have a motion to approve SLUP 2601 as written. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, indicate by your right hand, please. Okay. All those opposed? All right. The motion passes 4-1. Okay. Item number 4, for the master sign plan. I'm sure there's another presentation. So we'll turn the floor over back to you.
Good evening, everyone. All right, so you all have seen a couple of major master sign plans in front of you at this point. Most recently, we had Campus 244 last fall, but I have some info here that I'm happy to reference at any point if anyone has any questions. So as a quick reminder, the major master sign plan process was designed to ensure visual consistency among signs for larger campuses, and it also allows for certain specific requests for deviation from the code to allow for creativity and unusual circumstances. This graphic shows the different things that they can ask for. And again, I'm happy to reference this at any point. And so Kroger this evening is going through the major master sign plan process. They need to provide for visual consistency based on at least 3 of the following factors, that being color scheme, lettering style, materials, and location of signs to be posted on buildings. And they need to be reviewed for compliance with all new common developments and any existing development over 7 acres where sign area is changing. That would be Kroger. Madeline already did a great job doing an overview of the proposed Kroger development, so I don't have a ton to add there. But just to say that both of the rezonings from 1993 and 2004 have zoning conditions restricting signage. The applicant requested removal of those conditions. And so the sign code and the master sign plan will provide the only signage regulations for the property. So Kroger is requesting a major master sign plan in order to exceed the maximum count for 2 sign types and to exceed the maximum sign area for 9 individual signs. They're proposing to construct 2 wall signs and 1 canopy sign on the existing building, as well as to add some gas station signage. They're also proposing 3 monument panel swaps on existing monument signs for the perimeter center common development and 1 new monument sign for the subject parcel, and none of these signs require exemptions. So the applicant is proposing to install 2 building wall signs, signs A and B, on the existing building. Sign B is in compliance with the size requirements, but sign A will be a maximum of 407 square feet, which exceeds the maximum allowed size of 180. Wall large, these signs are very similar to the previous Walmart signage. Additionally, 2 building signs on the same facade exceeds the maximum sign count of 1 per facade. Also on the existing building, the applicant is proposing a 28.9 square foot canopy sign, sign D, that'll indicate the pharmacy drive-through. The size of canopy signs is determined by the ground floor glazing over which the canopy is located, and this one is not located over any ground floor glazing. As part of the construction of the gas station, the applicant will install 5 signs on the gas station canopy and 2 signs on the pump island. The maximum size for gas station sign is 6 square feet, and all of the proposed signs exceed the maximum allowed, ranging from 7.8 square feet to 30.3 square feet. Additionally, they're only allowed 1 canopy sign per street facade, and the gas station faces only 1 street, so they're exceeding that. So the color scheme is consistent throughout the proposal, using several dominant colors that are paired with complementary accent tones to ensure visibility and cohesion. All of the proposed signs use the same font family and typographic hierarchy to maintain brand consistency as associated with Kroger. All the proposed signage is constructed from durable, weather-resistant materials, and so overall staff finds that the major master sign plan proposal does provide visual consistency with the proposed and existing signs. The topography of the subject property is a little unusual. The perimeter village common development slopes down approximately 30 feet from Ashford Dunwoody Road to the proposed Kroger building, which really limits visibility for the development. The development consists of multiple buildings with a mix of uses, creating the need for signage to indicate the location of each tenant. The existing building facade is large. A maximum size per sign of 180 square feet would look out of scale compared to the size of the facade. And as I said previously, the proposed signs on the building are similar to the previously existing Walmart signs. But because of the multiple coexisting uses at a typical Kroger, supermarket, pharmacy, allowing 2 wall signs per facade and a canopy sign that is not located over ground floor glazing will permit customers to navigate the space more easily. Staff also finds that unique visibility concerns exist for the proposed gas station that necessitate the requested code exemptions due to the positioning of the gas station. Unlike typical gas stations, it'll be surrounded by parking lots and commercial drives, necessitating clear signage for customers entering from those surrounding areas. The proposed signs are of a consistent size and scale to existing signs in the surrounding area. It's located near Perimeter Marketplace and Ashford Lane, and all of those signs are of a fairly consistent size and shape. However, staff considers the proposed monument sign labeled M to be unsuitable. So the applicant is proposing 3 monument sign panel swaps on 2 existing monument signs for this common development. There's one located on Ashford Dunwoody, and then one located along the entrance to the development on Meadow Lane. The monument panel swaps meet code because of the substitution of sign panels on non-conforming signs is allowed. Both of those signs are larger than what would currently be allowed per code. However, staff does not find that there are unusual circumstances that warrant an additional monument sign, since Kroger will have signage on 2 large, prominently visible existing monument signs. While the sign is of a conforming height and size, its installation could be excessive and unnecessary when considering the total square footage of monument signage on the property. Staff is also concerned about individual businesses providing monument signage beyond the overall development signage. We feel it could create sign clutter. And just as a last note on this one, the applicant is proposing internal box lighting. That's not an allowed sign type. There are no exemptions to illumination, and so should the sign be approved, they would need to change the illumination type. They wouldn't be able to do internal box lighting. So overall, staff is recommending approval of the request for the major master sign plan for Kroger, with the exception that the sign labeled M is not approved and shall be removed from the application.
Thank you. All right. I'm going to start from the Commissioner Cameron. You have any?
Chairman, I would recommend letting the applicant address the commission and then doing the public hearing.
Okay.
Thank you. I know you're probably getting tired of me now. And I promise I'll be quick. Actually, it was the sign plan. Yeah, there was just a couple clarifications. One, well, let me start by thanking Allegra for her patience. This version is revision number 6. We covered a lot of ground, a lot of changing things, a lot of meeting in the middle. In terms of the sign plan, of course, it didn't help that our sign consultant had never done a master sign plan before. So she was very patient with us, and we were able to work out a lot of issues. I know that she pointed out that the sign that the big main sign is about the same size as what Walmart had. But I also wanted to point out that Kroger is kind of being penalized by the way that the sign area is measured. Basically, you get one rectangle. So the word marketplace, because it's so long, is actually extending a huge blank area, which doesn't have any text on it. I was going to try this so you can see what I mean. So it's this area here, if you can see my cursor. The actual, if you're going to take it into smaller chunks, it would be about 260 square feet. As far as the monument sign, I think, Allegra, may have been out of town. Revision number 6 included a relocation of the monument sign. It's really kind of a placeholder somewhere near that intersection. We found having it down here was not going to fit with the grade difference and with a detention pond right there. But we can, I know if it is approved as shown on the site plan, it can be shifted at an intersection administratively. We just can't change the complete intersection. And I would like to point out also that the reason for this sign was to be able to have, here it is, was be able to show the fuel prices. Sure, there's 2 monument signs out there now that really cover all the tenants. A LCD display or any type of similar lighting cannot be put on those signs. Those are legal non-conforming signs. So all you can do is change out the tenant panels. But in order to get the prices more visible on the street, the only way is with the monument sign. And of course, we'll work with staff on an appropriate location that doesn't create clutter, and also the appropriate lighting. A shopping center of this size actually allows 10 monument signs. So at the moment, there's 3, maybe 4 for the entire shopping center. So I don't really find the argument that there's excessive monument signs credible. We would ask that you approve it without the staff condition and allow monument sign M, please. Thank you.
Okay, at this point, we can open the public hearing for anyone who would like to speak for or against. So 10 minutes each. Would anyone like to speak in favor of the master sign plan? Hearing none, would anyone like to speak against the master sign plan? Yes, ma'am. You step up. Tell us your information again.
Jana Singer, KPAC 4646 Chardonnay Court. I am in agreement with City of Dunwoody's recommendation, and maybe I know it sounds like old things are not something that should maybe just be thrown out, but my recollection is that we're supposed to only have one major signage according to the old plat. But what can I say? I'm a lawyer. I like old law. But the other thing is, I go to Costco a lot. I'm presuming everybody here has been to Costco. I don't recall their gas station needing to have a signage with what the prices are out. If that's the reason, because they want to advertise their prices, people will go to the pumps anyway, whether there's a sign there or not. And I don't think it's necessary. And I thought that she made a very good point as to it's just going to result in more and more signage that we don't need. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Frank Capek, 4646 Chardonnay Court. If I understand correctly, this is going to be a large, bright sign right out on Ashford Dunwoody Road. And, you know, in all, you know, respect for the design, it looks like an eyesore. I mean, it really, if I understand correctly, if it's on Ashford Dunwoody Road, I think it's an eyesore. That's my point.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, hearing none, we'll bring the public comment session. I will close that and we will go now to discussion. Okay.
I get to go first
Mr.
again?
Cameron, yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
All right. Madeline, a couple questions, or I'm sorry, Allegra. Sorry.
No worries, we get it all the time.
Did Walmart have any exceptions from sign regulations for their signs? You said that especially the second facade sign exceeded square footage, but you said it was similar to what Walmart had.
Yeah, not that I'm aware of, but the signage that was developed for Walmart was developed under entirely different signage regulations than the ones we're currently working with. Yeah.
Okay, and then my second question, and I guess this is more curiosity, what does it mean to not be located over any ground floor glazing?
Yeah, so great question. So ground floor glazing is, windows, doors, something of that nature. And so canopy signs are supposed to be located over a pedestrian entrance. And so in this case, they're not located over a pedestrian entrance. They're located over a very small window. And so that's the reason for the exemption there.
Does QT has a gas sign out in front of its location that has its gas prices? What governs that sign? And is it conforming? Is it non-conforming? Did they get a special?
That was considered as part of the rezoning at the time for perimeter marketplace. There was like a handcrafted zoning condition sort of between the applicant and the city council at the time. And that's sort of integrated into the building. That is not a sign type that we really have. That we had a different sign code at that time, and because the gas station was put behind the convenience store, there really was no visibility of the street, so there was this sort of handcrafted condition.
And sign M is not proposed to be on Ashford Dunwoody Road, is it?
That's correct. It's proposed to be on Meadow Lane.
Okay. Back by kind of the back entrance. Okay. Those are all my questions. Thanks.
Yeah, I don't have any questions, just more comments to Commissioner Cameron. And now like QT has the sign on Ashford Dunwoody showing their gas prices. Looking at the other, like the Sandy Springs Kroger that has a fuel station, it doesn't seem like they have that similar sign to show the gas prices. They just have the sign that's actually on the fuel center that's included in this sign plan.
Okay, Commissioner Bob?
Nothing.
Cameron? Okay. I have one question about the monuments. So according to the plan I'm seeing on here, you have the sign P1 is on Ashford Dunwoody Road, correct? And
Let
that
me-
is that and that's a monument sign?
Let me pull it up.
Yeah, but they moved this one up here on the plan that she just showed. You've already got P2 as a monument sign there. So they're saying P1 and P2 is existing.
Correct.
All right, and they're just going to.
If you're referencing the existing monument signs, there's one along Ashford Dunwoody.
So
one
P1
along
and P2 are the existing ones that they're just going to build to the top of, and M would be an addition. But M, the site plan that we have in here is different, where they've moved M up beside P2. It looks like on the new one. So is
Say this is this one. This one's upside down.
yeah, but the one that she showed
Oh,
moved it.
okay.
Yeah. Am I correct? The one that you showed a little bit ago moves it as comparison to the site plan that we're looking at right here. On this one, M, because that's on top of a hill, you know.
You're correct.
Okay.
I was trying to get it up again so everybody would know what we were talking about. Yeah, the monument sign was moved to be near or next to P2.
So that would put two side by side, basically.
Well, and I hope, I know I mentioned this, but probably wasn't clear enough. It's kind of a placeholder there. In fact, I'm not even sure it can go exactly there because there is an electrical culvert box thing there. We would be working with staff to find an appropriate location somewhere near that intersection.
Okay, and then correct me if I'm wrong, but the signs on the canopy over the gas pumps also has the prices on the signage on the top on the canopy, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
They're much smaller though, and I'm trying to figure out how to make this smaller. Sorry. Oh, there it is. Great, thank you. Who knew you were gonna be a computer expert for tonight? Yeah, they're 8x3. The canopy signs, and so you can see them. It's just this little bit up here in the corner. And these were the P1 and P2 signs that you were talking about. Here's the existing two alternatives of possibilities of how P1 would change, and then P2, this is the one that's by Meadow Lane. So actually you can see that they tried to mimic the appearance of that monument sign with their proposed.
Okay, I think that answers my question. And one question for staff, or quickly, we're talking about the internal box lighting, and that was in regards to the fuel price. So if
The fuel price is separate. That's EMC, Electronic Messaging Center, and that's allowed. It's the Kroger logo on top of it.
and that is removed already from that, or would that be a condition we would need to make?
That would
can't
not be a
internal?
condition you would need to make because there's no way for them to make that,
Okay.
to request that exemption. And so it would just be something that they would simply need to conform to our code on that.
Okay. All right, that's all. Okay, regards to MMSP 2601, the applicant Kroger seeks a major master sign plan. Do I have a motions?
Sure, I'll make a motion. I motion to approve MMSP 2601 for 4725 Ashford Dunwoody Road for Kroger seeking a major master sign plan with staff conditions. That's good enough.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion to approve MMSP 2601 with staff conditions. I have a second. Do I have any discussion?
My only question is can they do something else about sign M? if the Kroger is the problem and not the gas prices. I don't know, it seems like I just pulled up the QT sign on Street View. I mean, I don't think it's that offensive if they can do something like that. That would be just my only discussion point.
Do we need a further discussion on that?
So if we're gonna discuss it, I just don't see the need for two signs in one location. If I'm going to Kroger, I'm usually getting gas. I'm not driving just to Kroger to get gas. That's just me.
Okay. All right, so I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor of the motion as presented, please raise your right hand. Motion passes unanimously. Okay. On item number 5.
Would like to give everybody in attendance who was here for the Kroger meeting an opportunity to leave the chamber at this point. Madeline, do you want to quickly go with folks and see if they have any follow-up questions? Yeah. All right. Good evening, Chairman Moss. Good evening, commissioners. This is a text amendment to the zoning ordinance regarding the public notice requirements. This is after state law changed in 2025. House Bill 155 was passed and made several changes to the state zoning procedures law. It is a follow-up to something that was before you all 2 years earlier, to a 2023 state law change. That one was fairly problematic. Contained some inconsistencies regarding what is considered a quasi-judicial versus a legislative zoning action, especially as it pertains to special land use permits and concurrent variances. When we talked with our legal team, what we had to do was to extend the timelines for all zoning cases for 60 days, and for variances, it was already that long, but like several zoning cases were extended by 60 days to over 6 months. And we're glad that we can return this to what we previously had, which is approximately 4 months. House Bill 155, so like the 2025, the recently passed legislation, clarifies that the length of public notice for zoning cases needs to be at least 15 days. So notice needs to be posted 15 to 45 days prior to a public hearing for rezonings, special land use permit, and variance applications. So they're calling this out specifically. Before there was a difference where some were 15 to 45 days and some were 30 days. There's a second aspect to this. In 2023, the legislature made changes for zoning cases where municipality, so this is not where a developer does it, but where a municipality rezones single-family zoned parcels to a multi-family use. City of Decatur was sort of the first city that had to comply with this, and they had to put public notice signs out through the entire single-family zone area, 500 feet space. So there were enormous amounts of public notice signs when they allowed multiple dwelling units on a formerly single-family zoned lot. The state has now clarified that if a city does this as part of a wholesale zoning map swap. So if they're adopting a full new zoning map, which is something that we are considering as part of our current zoning code rewrite, that this is not applicable, which is good. We had implemented this 2 years ago in section 27-338 of the zoning ordinance, and we're making this change as part of the package that's in front of you. Yeah, overall, for the impacts, previously, several cases we had required at least 30 days of public notice. And what that means, what the longest time frame of this is that we publish an ad in the Dunwoody Crier sort of for each one of the zoning cases. The Dunwoody Crier comes out weekly, so we can only put it into a publication that appears weekly on a Thursday. They're requiring that we have the ad submitted a week prior to that. So there's quite a bit of time that needs to happen for that 15 to 45 days to be met. And then what this required us to do was that we could not advertise a newly received case to the next month, like with the requirements as they were. We had to allow 2 months between when an application is received to when the public hearing can happen. Under the new state rules, because it reduces this to 15 days, we can get new cases go to the meeting in the month thereafter. So if someone submits an application in May, can go to the June Planning Commission meeting. If someone submits a variance application in May, can go to the June Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. So it cuts out a month for each one of those. For variances, we have one public hearing in the city. That's Zoning Board of Appeals. So that overall process from the initial pre-application meeting to a decision being made gets reduced from 2.5 months to 1.5 months. And variances, standalone variances, mostly homeowners that want to make changes to their home. So this gets reduced significantly. For the zoning cases that you all are seeing, so for special land use permit cases, for rezoning cases, and the concurrent variances, this will get reduced from 6 months to approximately 4 months. So still a significant reduction because there's the 2 public hearings, one in front of the Planning Commission, one in front of City Council. With this, we're recommending approval, and I'm ready to answer any questions.
Mr. Cameron, any questions?
I just want to clarify that this is it a requirement of the state law that we do this?
No, so we can be sort of stricter than state law. We can't be less restrictive. So if the state requires us to have at least 15-day period, we can do a 30-day period if we choose to do so. We can't go over the 45, but we could do 30 to 45 days. Yeah.
Okay. Any questions? Commissioner Wall, any questions?
No.
No questions? Okay. I have no questions. All right, so in regards to the ordinance to amend chapter 27 of the Code of Ordinances to adjust, review, and approval procedures of the zoning ordinance, do I have a motion?
I move that we accept the staff recommendation and approve it.
I have a motion to accept recommendation and approve.
I'll second.
I have a second. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes unanimously. All right, other business, anything? Public comment? That's over. All right. All right, any comments from the commissioners? I have one. Thanks, guys, for helping me out. We did do a lot of public comments on all of the meetings that we did. We'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved, second. All in favor? All right, meeting adjourned.